at this point, it's become pretty clear that I am never going to be able to shoot aerochrome, given the fact that prices have become insane. It's about $300 for a roll of 24 to 36 shots, and that's not even guaranteeing that the roll is going to turn out. So color infrared, unless I have a gift from God, is just not going to happen for me. But that being said, there is still black and white infrared film stocks that are readily made, and I wanted to experiment with them. I had bought this roll a couple weeks ago and was planning on saving it for either a road trip or just whatever, but I had a day where I was feeling generally just shitty and needed to get outside, so I'm like, you know what, if I shoot this in a comparison way of with and without infrared, all I have to be responsible for is 5 photos, and that's fully reasonable. The stock that I used was Rollei Infrared, which can be shot normally as a black and white film stock at 400 ISO, but it has extended range into the infrared. And if you use a infrared filter, like I have right here, it effectively cuts down the ISO of the film to around ISO 6, as this cuts out about 6 stops of light. But you get some really, really alien and otherworldly looking scenes. And honestly, I didn't choose all of the best locations to shoot this, but I'd never shot it before. So it's all part of the learning experience, and for what I did get, I'm really, really surprised at how it turned out, and really, really, really happy to share. This first picture right here is just a general landscape shot with the farm in the background, but it is probably one of the best in the way of comparison between the difference between the regular black and white and the infrared black and white. I mean, as a photo, I generally like it. It's got good composition, it's got good distance. You can barely see the cows in the background, but they're definitely still there. But all of that changes whenever you switch to the infrared version of this photo. It looks like an alien planet, honestly. I couldn't even tell the moon was there to begin with in the first photo. It completely cuts out the sky to a really, really weird, dark, I mean, I would say color, but it's black and white. And it really brings out the power lines, which in the first picture were barely there to begin with at all. Honestly, six stops is a rough approximation, so I might have actually overexposed this just a little bit, as the light bouncing off of all the grass is very blown out, but it still leaves a lot of detail in the background shadows with the trees and in the sky. But as a first shot with this film, it's honestly, it's my lock screen right now, so that just goes to show how, that just goes to show this picture. Like, I love it so much, and I'll probably make a print of this once I have access to that, which is soon. From the first spot, I basically hitched a ride across the street. I walked across the street to get the chicken farms, and it's an okay shot on black and white. It probably would look better on HP5, but where it really shines once again is switching over to infrared. Similar as the last time, the sky completely darkens and gives way to the power lines in the foreground, and it just adds some layering. some super, super deep shadows from the buildings, and you lose a little bit of detail in the highlights coming off the buildings, but overall it's still a great picture. And one thing I'm learning from this is I'm probably limited by the stuff that's in my area, and that's probably a bit of a cop-out, but this film stock, from what I can tell, does really good with vast open landscapes. Like, if I could find a decrepit abandoned building somewhere in the middle of nowhere, I feel like this film stock in infrared would really, really shine. It's just got such a different vibe going on to it, and while you could partially get that with regular black and white using either an orange or yellow filter, this is just at a whole different level with how it separates the sky from the foreground. Ironically enough, these next two pictures are kind of the reverse situation from the first two, where I actually kind of like the regular black and white more so than the infrared. This is just your standard shot of a house and a truck, and it's probably a little bit underexposed. I was having a bit of trouble figuring out my exposure, because at this point the truck was completely in the shade, which was a bit of a disappointment, but overall it's a solid photo. I still enjoy it. Switching over to infrared, once again it's overexposed, but you get those really, really interesting color. I keep wanting to say color, but it really does feel like you're getting a different sense of what's being thrown off of the vegetation, because thinking back to aerochrome, it's infrared light, which we're not akin to. We don't know what, as a human base, like, we don't see infrared, so it's a very different range of color that we're just completely unaware of. And in the direct sunlight, you can see there's a huge change between the brightness of the light that's being reflected off of the tree as opposed to the shade that's right below it. But it's very, very cool, very interesting. And looking back between the two, the shadow detail is actually a little bit brighter in the infrared, but that probably could be due to my overexposure more than anything else. We'll have to do some more testing with the exposure compensation, which I assumed was 6 stops, but after looking at this is probably just closer to 5 or so. So I would be shooting this at an effective ISO of around 12 instead of 6, but that's just up to me experimenting a bit more. This is another great shot. It's just a close-up of the truck, but I really believe I nailed the framing on this one, and I think it's just kind of great. I was a bit dumb to shoot this specifically in infrared with it being in the shade. So again, this is one that I prefer the regular black and white as opposed to the infrared. But that might be slightly different if this was in the daylight instead of the shade. Maybe with a different background, but you can't pick and choose where you find things. It's just you take a picture and hope something good comes out of it, and if not, then you learn from it and you move on. This last location I saw going towards the truck of the past one, and I knew that if I had any shots left on my roll, I definitely wanted to go back and shoot it. I think this was town property, probably. I was right behind a fence when I took this picture, but I just love the way the light was hitting the barn, especially. I guess I got there a little bit late. I should have covered up the lens when I took the picture, because there is a sun flare in both of these two, but overall the framing of this is really nice. And going into the infrared, it actually cuts out a lot from the sky, which really puts this to the benefit of the picture, because in the first one, sky's overexposed in order to get the barn in focus, but in the infrared, it's got some nice vertical layering with the contrast, because you got a very more dark section in the middle, then on the top and the bottom you have a more neutral or lighter. It's literally a gradient in the sky looking back at it. It's a bit dusty from the scanning, and that's on me, but overall it's a great picture. And another, I like this one. It's more in infrared than I do in regular black and white. So, and that's on just the vastness. That's the ultimate takeaway I have from this film, is it works to show scale by really cutting through skies. And if it was kind of a partly cloudy day, I think that would show through even more. Luckily enough, it was a perfectly clear day, but with infrared, with the clouds, looking at some other reference material I've seen, it's got some really, really interesting separation that makes it look like you're on an alien planet. With all that being said, I probably won't shoot this for a while, only because where I'm going to be for a bit is very forested, and there isn't much in the way of vast landscapes. I'm not going to be in California. Well, let's be honest. But when I'm out west in the summer, I will, even though I've already picked out the majority of my film and have it on me, I'll definitely pick up a roll or two of Rollei so I can have it just in case, because you never know when the opportunity is going to strike for some good infrared photography. And maybe I'll get even more lucky with a roll of aerochrome, but at this point, given the fact that I've never shot it before, it'll be easy to just keep not shooting it. Because if I do get the taste of color infrared once in my life, I don't ever think I'm going to be able to be okay. But all in all, for a one-off test roll on a random Thursday afternoon or whatever the hell it was, I'm really happy with the photos, and I'm looking forward to shooting it more in the future with the right scenario. Have I been ranking these? Nah. I'm gonna start ranking them. I mean, at the top, for sure, I got Cinestill 800T. You got HP5. Those are the kings. Around the middle, I got probably Rollei Infrared, and have I shot anything else? Nah. And then towards the bottom, I got Cinestill 50D, but that's only because I didn't have a proper. I'll have to rethink about that. I'll have to shoot another roll of Cinestill 50D. But I leave for a road trip with my brother in a couple days, so I'm about to start making my longest video to date. We're going a couple different places, and I brought a couple different rolls of film, so look forward to some good chill trip photography. And I'll see you when I get that up, because I don't know when it is, but it'll be when I get it up. Peace.